Prologue. Wyatt has been living on his best friend Laurel's couch for 3 weeks after his fiancée Cadence calls off their wedding the night before it was scheduled to happen. Laurel forces Wyatt to shower, confronting the depth of his physical and emotional neglect since the breakup. While cleaning up, Wyatt reflects on his relationship with Cadence, from their meeting at a coffee shop to their engagement, and the sudden end when she admits she does not love him. Afterward, Laurel reveals she has a date and reassures Wyatt she is not abandoning him. She then gives him mail containing paperwork for a farm he partially inherited after his brother Clark's death. Laurel also reveals she ran into Wyatt's cousin Wallace, who implied he may soon claim the family cabin. The will states the first married grandchild inherits it. Laurel proposes a temporary marriage of convenience to one of Clark's sisters to secure the cabin and prevent Wallace from taking it. In Chapter 1, Aubrey wakes from a recurring nightmare of childhood abuse by her father and realizes she fell asleep stressing over the failing finances of Cassidy's farm. Now in charge since Cassidy's death, Aubrey cannot understand why profits are down, despite increased production and new honey operations. She interacts with Parson, a trusted employee, and reflects on improvements she has made to the farm while struggling with self-doubt. Aubrey agrees to spend time with Echo, the farm's beekeeper, to help Echo avoid returning to Texas under her controlling mother's pressure. That evening, Aubrey joins her siblings Ryland and Hattie, Hattie's boyfriend Hayes, and Ryland's niece Mac for dinner, highlighting their rebuilt family stability after Cassidy's death. During dinner, Hattie reveals that Aubrey's former best friend Amanda has returned to town married to Aubrey's ex, Matt, and is pregnant. The news deeply unsettles Aubrey, triggering anger, insecurity, and unresolved emotional wounds. In Chapter 2, Wyatt arrives in Almond Bay and checks into the 5678 Inn, deliberately ingratiating himself with the owner, Ethel, to build goodwill in town. He reveals his urgency after learning his cousin Wallace is engaged, which pushes Wyatt to pursue Laurel's plan to secure the family cabin. Wyatt intends to win over the town and eventually Aubrey. He visits the Rowley farm unannounced, reconnecting with Ryland, Hattie, and meeting his niece Mackenzie, who barely knows him. Aubrey reacts with hostility and distrust, clearly wary of his motives. Wyatt apologizes for his absence after Clark and Cassidy's deaths and offers help, but Aubrey remains suspicious. During dinner, Wyatt learns more about the family's dynamics and Aubrey's stress. Later, Aubrey confronts Wyatt directly, accusing him of wanting to interfere with or take the farm. Wyatt insists he is not there to claim it, but their interaction ends tense and unresolved. In Chapter 3, Aubrey starts her day determined to focus on farm work and avoid Wyatt, but finds him already helping Parson in the fields. She confronts Wyatt, making it clear she does not trust his presence or motives, fearing he intends to interfere with Cassidy's farm and legacy. Wyatt insists he has the right to be involved as a co-owner and pushes for transparency about farm operations. Despite Aubrey's resistance, she reluctantly gives him a tour. During the tour, Wyatt offers multiple insightful ideas for improving profitability, including expanding products, rethinking potato overproduction, and partnering with outside businesses. Although Aubrey outwardly rejects his suggestions, she is privately unsettled by how practical and intelligent they are. She ends the tour abruptly, overwhelmed and feeling inferior. Later, Aubrey vents to Echo, admitting her fear that Wyatt's charm and competence will win everyone over while undermining her role and control over the farm. In Chapter 4, Wyatt reflects on his first days in Almond Bay, exhausted and sore from working on the farm and beginning construction on the chicken coop. He updates Laurel, confirming Aubrey's hostility, but admitting he plans to keep pushing his plan. While in town, Wyatt continues ingratiating himself with locals, learning more about Aubrey's difficult childhood and why she is fiercely protective of the farm. He discovers Aubrey fears he intends to take control of the land. The next morning, Wyatt brings muffins to the farm and clashes with Aubrey again, but their banter reveals growing tension and chemistry. Wyatt finally admits his real motive. He wants Aubrey to marry him so he can beat his cousin to a family cabin inheritance. In exchange, he offers to sign over his half of the farm to her after a year. Aubrey angrily refuses. Undeterred, Wyatt begins staking his portion of the land, deliberately provoking her, escalating their conflict into an open power struggle. In Chapter 5, Aubrey continues clashing with Wyatt as he escalates his presence on the farm and his insistence on a marriage of convenience. Wyatt openly threatens to sell his half of the land if Aubrey tells anyone about his proposal, forcing her to stay silent. Despite her resistance, Wyatt embeds himself in family life, charming Ryland and Mac and deliberately creating the appearance that he and Aubrey are together. The next morning, he arrives early, brings her favorite muffins, and finishes major work on the chicken coop, making it harder for her to deny his usefulness. They work together begrudgingly, sharing an unexpected moment of connection when they admit the same favorite place on the farm. In town, Aubrey runs into Amanda and Matt, who belittle her life and choices. In a moment of panic and pride, Aubrey claims Wyatt as her partner. Wyatt fully supports the lie, publicly positioning himself as her boyfriend. In Chapter 6, Hattie excitedly tells Ryland she saw Aubrey and Wyatt together in town acting close, which immediately sparks speculation that something romantic is happening. Ryland admits he noticed similar behavior the night before, including Wyatt touching Aubrey's chair during dinner and walking her home afterward. But he dismissed it at the time due to exhaustion. Both siblings agree that there appears to be genuine chemistry between Aubrey and Wyatt, despite Aubrey's earlier anger over Wyatt owning part of the land. Hattie believes Wyatt could be good for Aubrey and help her open up, while Ryland cautiously agrees, but recognizes Aubrey's unpredictable nature. Neither sibling wants to confront Aubrey directly, fearing her reaction. After debating strategies, Hattie decides she will ask Aubrey about Wyatt herself, admitting her curiosity, but framing it as concern for the family. In Chapter 7, Wyatt confronts Aubrey about her claiming him as her boyfriend in town and points out that the rumor has already spread, confirmed when Hattie texts Aubrey. Wyatt argues that the situation can only be managed by continuing the lie or formalizing their original deal. After debating consequences, Aubrey reluctantly agrees to a 1-year marriage of convenience in exchange for Wyatt signing over his half of the farm. They set boundaries. Wyatt will live with her, affection will be public only, and legal protections will ensure Aubrey keeps the farm. Wyatt reassures her about Mac, finances, and his intent to leave after securing the cabin. Hattie arrives demanding answers, and Wyatt fabricates a convincing backstory about a secret relationship. Aubrey plays along, even claiming she loves Wyatt, solidifying the ruse. Hattie accepts the story enthusiastically and spreads the news. The chapter ends with their fake relationship now public and unavoidable. In Chapter 8, Aubrey recounts the fallout from announcing her relationship with Wyatt. He meets Ryland, who is shocked but supportive, and Wyatt behaves respectfully around the family. Aubrey notices Wyatt bonding easily with Mac, which reassures her. Later, Wyatt privately tells Aubrey he will have a prenup drafted. The next morning, Wyatt unexpectedly offers to give Aubrey his half of the land outright, admitting guilt over pressuring her into marriage. Aubrey refuses, insisting on fairness, and presents 2 options. She buys his share, or they proceed with the marriage plan. Wyatt agrees to marry her rather than take her money. They reaffirm boundaries and exchange contact information. That evening, they go on a public date to maintain appearances, where Wyatt confidently plays the role of devoted partner and Aubrey struggles with her growing comfort around him. Their fake relationship becomes firmly established in town, and Aubrey begins to question whether the arrangement may be more than just a transaction. In Chapter 9, Wyatt reflects on his growing attraction to Aubrey after their public date, recognizing her humor beneath her guarded exterior and wanting to support her without pushing emotions she resists. They text late into the night, where Aubrey explains that hand-holding feels too intimate to her, revealing how distant her past relationship with Matt was. Wyatt reassures her of his support while masking his deeper feelings. The next day, Wyatt visits Rodney at the Railroad Museum, strengthens local connections, and further integrates himself into town life. Over breakfast with Hayes, Wyatt reinforces the narrative that he and Aubrey are genuinely in love and reveals plans to propose soon, intentionally spreading the story to solidify their relationship's legitimacy. Hayes believes Wyatt is good for Aubrey and supports the match. Wyatt later updates Laurel, confirming Aubrey agreed to marry him, that he plans to move in with her, and that a small, imminent wedding in Almond Bay is now inevitable. In Chapter 10, Aubrey confides in Echo about the truth behind her relationship with Wyatt, explaining the planned marriage of convenience that will secure Wyatt the family cabin while transferring his share of the farm to her. Echo supports the plan and proposes a profitable business idea using beeswax products, which Aubrey agrees to pursue. Later, Aubrey coordinates store changes with Hattie to prepare for selling honey and related goods. Wyatt unexpectedly arrives with his suitcase and announces he is moving into Aubrey's guest house to maintain the appearance of their relationship, forcing Aubrey to adjust quickly. At dinner, Aubrey publicly confirms to Ryland and Hayes that she and Wyatt are in love and living together. That night, Aubrey struggles with sharing her space and intimacy due to past trauma, but Wyatt reassures her with patience and boundaries. He insists on protecting her while respecting her limits, and when he gently holds her while they sleep, Aubrey unexpectedly finds comfort and calm in his presence. In Chapter 11, Hattie and Ryland privately discuss their concerns about Aubrey moving in with Wyatt so quickly. Hattie finds the situation unusual given Aubrey's history with relationships and her discomfort with intimacy, while Ryland admits he is surprised, but respects that it is Aubrey's choice. Ryland explains that he is constantly worried about Aubrey due to the emotional damage from her childhood and past relationship with Matt, which left her guarded and distant. Hattie agrees, expressing fear that Aubrey may be forcing herself into something she is not ready for. Despite their concerns, Ryland insists there is nothing they can do without overstepping and potentially pushing Aubrey away. They agree the best course is to support Aubrey, encourage her gently, and trust that she will find her own path. Ryland believes Wyatt will be good for her and asks Hattie to let Aubrey navigate this relationship on her own. In Chapter 12, Wyatt reflects on the previous night, realizing that comforting Aubrey through physical closeness helped her relax and sleep, reinforcing his desire to be a safe and supportive presence rather than push her boundaries. The next morning, Aubrey resists his offers to help on the farm, asserting her independence, and Wyatt backs off to respect her pace, reassuring her he is not angry. Aubrey thanks him for his patience and agrees to go to dinner with him that evening. Wyatt meets Laurel in town to choose an engagement ring, settling on a simple design that suits Aubrey, while Laurel questions whether he is masking his unresolved pain from Cadence. Wyatt insists his focus is on supporting Aubrey, not avoiding his own grief. He then confides in Ethel, revealing his plan to propose and asking for her help involving the end of Summer Jubilee. That night at dinner, Wyatt and Aubrey bond through playful conversation, showing growing ease and genuine connection as he plans a surprise centered on her interests. In Chapter 13, Wyatt surprises Aubrey with a thoughtful date at the drive-in, arranging blankets, sundaes, and a showing of The Shining, which helps Aubrey see his kindness as genuine and lowers her guard. During the evening, they bond through playful banter and shared comfort, and Wyatt reassures her that he is a safe partner who will not betray her trust. Over the following nights, their routine deepens as Wyatt consistently checks boundaries, holds Aubrey while she sleeps, and suggests practicing nightly kisses to prepare for their wedding. Each night, the kisses gradually intensify, moving from brief pecks to deeper mutual intimacy. Aubrey realizes she enjoys the closeness and begins to anticipate it. Eventually, their make-out session goes too far, prompting Wyatt to stop and apologize, reaffirming respect for her boundaries. He openly affirms Aubrey's attractiveness and worth, challenging her self-doubt. The chapter ends with Aubrey emotionally conflicted, but increasingly drawn to Wyatt and their growing connection. In Chapter 14, Wyatt brings Aubrey to the end of Summer Jubilee, intending to publicly propose without warning her. The event escalates into a large town spectacle orchestrated by Ethel, including dancers, music, and a train reveal. Despite multiple mishaps, Wyatt proposes in front of the entire town, and Aubrey says yes, making their engagement official and highly visible. The public proposal secures their appearance as a genuine couple to the community. Afterward, family members congratulate them, and Aubrey insists she wants a small wedding, rejecting elopement despite her siblings' objections. Later, Aubrey and Wyatt confront Amanda, who insults Aubrey by referencing her painful past. Wyatt firmly defends Aubrey, listing her strength, sacrifices, and value, which leads Aubrey to stand up for herself and walk away. Outside, Aubrey asks if Wyatt meant his words. He assures her he did, and she kisses him, deepening their emotional and physical connection. In Chapter 15, Aubrey attempts to avoid Wyatt, but is pulled into full wedding planning when Maggie, Hattie, and Ryland pressure her into abandoning a courthouse ceremony. Aubrey agrees to a farm wedding under her favorite tree, with Mac as flower girl and Chewy Charles as ring bearer, making the wedding increasingly personal and public. That night, Aubrey attends a burlesque club outing with Wyatt and friends, where alcohol lowers her inhibitions and escalating flirtation replaces their earlier boundaries. During an interactive show, Aubrey sits on Wyatt's lap, heightening sexual tension and causing Wyatt to abruptly leave. Aubrey follows him to the bathroom, where they have a consensual sexual encounter that crosses into full intimacy. Afterward, Aubrey realizes she has genuine feelings for Wyatt beyond their agreement. Wyatt seems conflicted and attempts to speak, but Aubrey stops him, choosing not to hear anything that might pull her back emotionally. They return together, unsettled but connected. In Chapter 16, Wyatt struggles with guilt and confusion after crossing physical boundaries with Aubrey, realizing his attraction has turned into genuine feelings just days before their wedding. He takes care of Aubrey while she's drunk, reinforcing their emotional closeness, but wakes, conflicted and overwhelmed by desire. When he attempts to go for a run, he discovers Aubrey masturbating, which leads to another consensual sexual encounter that deepens their physical and emotional entanglement. Afterward, Aubrey questions whether they should continue crossing lines, and Wyatt agrees they need to be more careful, acknowledging the danger of their growing intimacy. Later, Wyatt confides in Laurel, admitting he likes Aubrey and fears falling for her without reciprocation. Laurel challenges him to consider risking his heart. That afternoon, Wyatt and Aubrey attend a wedding planning meeting where they agree to a farm wedding with a capped guest list of 50, involving the town to maintain appearances. Aubrey decides to wear Cassidy's dress, solidifying the wedding plans. In Chapter 17, Aubrey spends the night bantering with Wyatt, showing how comfortable and emotionally connected they've become, before confronting ongoing stress about the farm's finances. Wyatt gently pushes her to take a break and accept help, sharing his own experience with pride and failure. At lunch in town, Wyatt reviews the farm's online sales and discovers the core issue. The almond extract has been mistakenly priced at $2 instead of $12 on the website. The error explains the revenue shortfall and relieves Aubrey's fear that she is failing Cassidy's legacy. Hattie and Hayes join them, and Hattie reassures Aubrey of her importance to the family and the farm, prompting Aubrey to finally allow herself to cry and accept support. Later, Aubrey confides in Echo that she is falling for Wyatt. That evening, Wyatt surprises Aubrey with a professionally redesigned website honoring Cassidy and highlighting Aubrey's role, deeply moving her and strengthening their emotional bond. In Chapter 18, Wyatt reunites with Laurel and meets her girlfriend Rhonda on the eve of his wedding, insisting the marriage is business despite Laurel's concern about his unresolved past with Cadence. Aubrey joins them, and the evening unfolds as a warm family gathering with Ryland, Hattie, Mac, and friends, during which Wyatt and Aubrey behave comfortably and affectionately, making the relationship feel real. Laurel privately tells Wyatt she believes Aubrey has genuine feelings for him and urges him to be honest with himself after the wedding. That night, Wyatt reassures Aubrey that she can still back out, but Aubrey firmly confirms she is committed to marrying him. The next morning, they exchange lighthearted messages before the ceremony. Aubrey walks down the aisle in Cassidy's dress, and they marry in a small farm wedding officiated by Ethel. After the reception, Wyatt announces a surprise trip and takes Aubrey to his family cabin, securing the inheritance. Despite being married, Aubrey chooses to sleep separately, highlighting the emotional distance that still remains. In Chapter 19, Aubrey struggles with the realization that the wedding felt emotionally real to her, even though it was meant to be transactional. At the cabin, she initially chooses the bunk room, but decides to ask Wyatt if she can sleep with him. Wyatt agrees, holds her, and their physical closeness leads to sex, which is deeply meaningful for Aubrey. The next morning, Wyatt is distant, causing Aubrey to worry she misread his feelings. After seeking advice from Echo, Aubrey confronts Wyatt and admits she has developed real feelings and cannot spend a year in emotional limbo. Wyatt admits he feels the same, explains he held back out of fear of scaring her, and asks her to date him despite already being married. They begin a genuine romantic relationship. Later, while exploring town together, they discuss Wyatt's connection to the cabin and his grandfather. Aubrey becomes unsettled when a woman mistakes her for Cadence, Wyatt's ex, and Wyatt downplays the relationship, leaving Aubrey uneasy about his unresolved past. In Chapter 20, Wyatt and Aubrey spend the day in Canoodle, settling into their new relationship. At breakfast, Aubrey questions Wyatt about Cadence, but Wyatt deflects, reassuring Aubrey that his focus is solely on her and asking for trust. They walk around town, buy comforts like slippers and a blanket, and talk about Wyatt's childhood and his parents' supportive marriage, which contrasts with Aubrey's abusive upbringing. Their bond deepens as Aubrey admits Wyatt makes her feel valued and seen. Back at the cabin, their emotional intimacy turns physical, reinforcing their growing connection. Later, Wyatt reflects on his brother Clark and Cassidy's decision to leave him part ownership of the farm, realizing it kept their families connected. Aubrey encourages Wyatt to stop blaming himself for the past and focus on honoring Clark by staying present now. Wyatt suggests removing the 1-year limit on their marriage and relationship, wanting to explore their connection without an end date. Aubrey agrees, solidifying their commitment to each other. In Chapter 21, Aubrey reflects on her happiness with Wyatt after their passionate time in Canoodle, believing she has finally found safety, joy, and love. After returning to Almond Bay, her contentment is shaken when Wyatt's cousin Wallace and Wyatt's ex-fiancé Cadence confront them in town. Aubrey learns Wyatt was engaged to Cadence just 2 months earlier, information he never shared with her. Wallace accuses Wyatt of using Aubrey in a revenge marriage, and Cadence claims she left Wyatt because she could not trust him and felt emotionally shut out. Wyatt angrily insists he loved Cadence and was abandoned the night before their wedding, revealing unresolved emotions. Aubrey recognizes the same emotional avoidance Wyatt showed her and feels betrayed, insecure, and manipulated. Overwhelmed, she walks away, telling Wyatt to resolve his issues with Cadence before speaking to her again. Despite Wyatt's pleas, Aubrey leaves him behind and runs to the almond store, breaking down in tears when she sees Hattie. In Chapter 22, Hattie urgently contacts Ryland after Aubrey breaks down at the almond store. Aubrey arrived crying uncontrollably and retreated to the apartment above the store, refusing to explain what happened. Hattie arranges for Hayes to pick up Mac after school and take her home so Ryland and Hattie can focus on Aubrey. Both siblings suspect something happened between Aubrey and Wyatt, having heard from Ethel that there was awkwardness at the cliffs earlier. Ryland becomes furious at the possibility that Wyatt hurt Aubrey and threatens retaliation, but Hattie insists they prioritize Aubrey's emotional state before confronting anyone. They agree not to contact Wyatt until they hear Aubrey's side. Ryland rushes to leave school as soon as possible, deeply shaken because Aubrey rarely cries and has never reacted this strongly before. The siblings unite in protective resolve, determined to support Aubrey and confront Wyatt only if necessary. In Chapter 23, Wyatt confronts Wallace and Cadence outside the cliffs, angrily defending Aubrey and declaring that he loves her and has moved on. He threatens Wallace with a restraining order and rejects Cadence completely before rushing to the almond store to find Aubrey. Hattie allows him to see her, but Aubrey confronts Wyatt about hiding his recent engagement to Cadence and accuses him of using her while he was still emotionally attached to his ex. She ends their personal relationship, insisting they return to a strictly contractual marriage, and leaves. At the farmhouse, Aubrey breaks down and finally tells Ryland and Hattie the truth about the marriage being a convenience deal tied to the land. Wyatt arrives, admits responsibility, and Ryland punches him. Aubrey decides they will stay married for appearances but remain emotionally separated. After Aubrey leaves, Wyatt explains everything to Ryland and Hattie, confesses he is in love with Aubrey, and earns conditional support, agreeing to prove himself and stay committed. In Chapter 24, Aubrey withdraws emotionally after confronting Wyatt's betrayal, determined to endure their contractual marriage while protecting her heart. Wyatt returns to the guest house, bruised from Ryland's punch, and respects her distance, but each night, he begins speaking to her honestly, sharing his past with Cadence, his fear of imperfection, and his struggles with depression after his broken engagement. Though Aubrey remains silent, his vulnerability slowly breaks down her defenses. Over several nights, Wyatt continues to open up, confessing that his feelings for Aubrey run deeper than anything he felt before, and that he loves her. Hattie encourages Aubrey to consider giving Wyatt another chance, reminding her that he is finally being truthful. When Wyatt admits he would give up the cabin and land to earn her trust, Aubrey accepts his sincerity. She finally confesses that she loves him too, and they reconcile, agreeing to rebuild their marriage on honesty, trust, and genuine commitment. Epilogue: Wyatt hosts a successful fall-themed book signing at 5678, organized by Ethel, marking his growing connection to Almond Bay. Life has settled into a hopeful rhythm. Ryland buys a Victorian house in town for himself and Mac, who adjusts happily to the move, while Aubrey, Wyatt, and Hattie prepare the farmhouse to become Aubrey and Wyatt's permanent home. Aubrey and Wyatt plan renovations, discuss their future, and agree that while they are not ready for children, they are committed to building a life together. Wyatt confirms Wallace can no longer challenge ownership of the cabin as long as the marriage stands, and they plan to spend Christmas in Canoodle together. At the signing, Wyatt reconnects with fellow authors and readers, reinforcing his career success. Aubrey arrives with Hattie, and Wyatt reflects on how their marriage of convenience became genuine love. He recognizes that marrying Aubrey for land ultimately gave him a true family and lasting happiness.